Okay, that's what I'll do. I'll provide you a sketch to this review.
Rest now, your hardship is
Can you hear them? All those people who lived in terror of your judgment. All those people whose ancestors devoted themselves to you, sacrificed themselves to you. Can you hear them singing? Oh, you like to think you're a god. Well, you're not a god. You're just a parody of a marvellous scene from a marvellous, but truly underrated episode that really needs more praise than it deserves and gets. So, come on then. Take my praise and criticisms. But I hope you have a big appetite, because I have lived a long life, well, 21 years, and I have seen a few things. I walked away from that terrible space pirates story. I marked the passing of no less than 12 doctors. I saw the birth of the revised series, and I watched the first 2 episodes on broadcast. And I returned for Christmas, and then midway through series 2, and stuck ever since. Catching up on the episodes I had missed both in and before my time. Until I had seen them all. No classic. No revival. Just me! I cameoed in fan-made productions that were devised by the minds of mad people! I've watched fan channels start and end. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. I've lost things you would never understand. And I know things that must never be told. Knowledge that must never be spoken. Knowledge that would make parody gods blaze. So come on then. Take it all, baby. Have it. You have it all! Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who, Series 7, Episode 7. I was going to say Episode 8 for a minute, that's not quite true. That's not quite right, as Zelen from Can You Hear Me says. That's not quite true. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so, the Episode 7 of Series 7, The Rings of Akhaten. Right then, in my opinion, The Rings of Akhaten is a brilliant episode. This is such a great episode. It's also probably the most underrated episode ever made. At least Delton the Bannerman whilst it doesn't really get talked about that much, but when it does get talked about, you've got a very 50-50 opinion about it. You either like it or you don't. With Rings of Akhaten, most people don't seem to like it, and I don't know why. With other stories like Delta and the Bannerman, The Twin Dilemma, Time and the Rani, Love and Monsters, Fear Her, Hell Bent, Ascension of the Simon, Timeless Children, Battle of Ranskoor, of Kolos, are actors in the UK, and many, many, many more across all of the show. By the way, at least with stories like those, I know why people don't like them. But for the Rings of Akhaten, I don't. So if you don't like the story, please tell me why. Or if you know why people don't like the story, please tell me why. Comment below. Be nice. But for me, this is a brilliant story. And even if I didn't love this story, even if I didn't find this a brilliant story, I would still be unaware of how people could dislike this story. I don't know why. So even if I didn't like this story, I want to know why other people wouldn't have liked it. So yeah, and I would say why I wouldn't. So at least I would be contributing to explaining why. However, I do like the story, so I'll explain why about that instead. So, The Rings of Akhaten, the pre-title scene of the story, which may have been written by Stephen Moffat, but maybe, I'm not quite sure, or Stephen Moffat gave some bullet points to writer Neil Cross to include in the episode. So the story, the opening sees Clara's parents getting together. They meet when Clara's mother saves her father, Clara's father, from being run over by a car after a leaf blew into his face. The same leaf that appears in the book 101 Places to See. And as Clara's father explains later, if that leaf hadn't blown into her father's face, then he would never have met her mother. And so that leaf becomes page one, basically, of the book, as explained in the last episode. And ultimately, they get together and they have Clara. And they have her growing up. The Doctor is watching throughout. I love the addition of him having the Beano Summer Special 1981. Whilst watching the two parents get together. It might even have been taking place in 1981 exactly. Although the bit where he's standing outside watching them in the rain, it's a bit funny. He's not watching from under an umbrella or under a tree. If this was the 6th or 7th Doctors, they would have their umbrella up. It'd probably be one of the few times they had their umbrellas open. In fact, it would have been a good time for either one of those umbrellas or the one from Delta and the Bannerman to make a reappearance, or just a brand new one. But anyway, so the Doctor interacts with them at one point when Clara accidentally kicks a ball into him, which may have been filmed around the same time as the Bells of St. John's prequel, which I kind of forgot to talk about in Bells of St. John, with the Doctor going to the monastery to kind of do what young Clara said at the time of when they lose something, they like to go in a place and think about it, wondering if they can find it, way if they can find it. And it soon turns out it was Clara he was talking to. This time round, the Doctor now knows it's Clara, and they have a bit of interaction. And there's some nice scenes with the family. However, all good things come to an end. As it was explained in the last episode, Clara's mother had died, and we see her and her father at the gravestone of Clara's mother. Wait, hang on a second. Stop the episode. What was Clara's mother's death date? Let me see. Hold on. 5th of March 2005. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Does that mean Clara's mother was killed in the Auton invasion in Rose? Oh my god. Oh my god. Could Clara's mother have been one of the victims of the Autons in Rose? Then again, Clara's been looking after this family for quite a few many years in that case, if she's been helping them out since 2005, and it's now 2013. So she's been there for a good 8 years. The nanny of those children. In fact, she probably would have been a teenager at that point. Oh no, or did they explain that their mother had died, and she helped to look after them there? Not quite sure. Anyway, after watching all of this, the Doctor then goes to pick up Clara, who's been waiting for him, and they go to Akhaten, and the plot of the episode starts getting going as the Doctor shows Clara around, and she's jumping into this into the experience. Like I think David McLaughlin mentioned that in his review on 5 Fans back in 2013, that she's jumping right into it. She's getting to experience it. Like the Ninth Doctor says to Adam in the Long Game, you don't just when you go to a foreign country, you don't just read the brochures and the guidebooks. You've got to jump in and get yourself in there, and that's exactly what Clara's doing. And I think this is really great. There's also a nice reference to Susan when the Doctor said he brought his granddaughter here. Whether this was an adventure with the first Doctor and Susan, actually, it probably was, yeah. So we can assume the first Doctor and Susan came here at some point. Whether with Ian and Barbara is uncertain, or whether it was before they went to London, 1963. London 1965's become a meme for some reason, but yeah. But anyway, but the Doctor and Clara just have a bit of fun going around, meet some characters like Doreen, and we get to learn a bit about the financial system on Akhaten, where sentimental value is the price for things. The more sentimental, the higher the price, which is important for later. And everyone from a seven planet system has come to this one, to Akhaten, to celebrate the grandfather, a sort of god, to return going back to sleep. Otherwise, he may wreak havoc or something. Still, it's still some great world building here. Some great world building for for this planet and the people in their system. Eventually, Clara meets Mary Galel, who is the Queen of Years, who is the one who leads the song in trying to put the old god, that's it, the old god, back to sleep. Nervous at first, after talking to Clara, she eventually plucks up the courage. Oh yeah, for some reason the TARDIS doesn't like Clara now. Something that stopped being a thing after Series 7 Part 2, but here's a small thing in some of episodes of Series 7 Part 2, especially in the Neil Cross episodes. Then again, Clara doesn't have her own key yet. Victorian Clara got it automatically, but this one doesn't. But yeah, Clara doesn't have the key to get into the TARDIS, but then it makes a noise at her and she doesn't think it likes her. And this becomes more apparent in Hyde. Why the TARDIS doesn't like Clara, it doesn't actually get explained, I don't think, in the series. There's some things that just happen and they don't explain. And this episode does have a few of those, I will admit that. That's the one bad thing about this episode. There's some things that don't actually get directly explained. I mean, stuff about the lone god, that makes sense. But some other stuff, like the Vigils, who are these creatures looking for Mary and wanting to bring her to face the lone god, the old god. It's they're just there basically. That's and the fact that things just happen are kind of my only criticisms of this story. They just happen, or they're just there. Anyway, so the Doctor and Clara go to see the long song being performed. However, something goes wrong, and it turns out that Mary was supposed to be sacrificed to the lone god. However, it soon becomes apparent it is too late. By the way, there's when the Doctor and Clara go to try and rescue her, the guy who still is trying to sing the song, when he's told to stop by the Doctor, and he does stop, he says the long song ended with me, and then he presses the bracelet. I think we kind of presumed that was a teleport, but actually rewatching the episode, it looked like he committed suicide, especially from the way the dialogue was presented by that character. The long song ended with me, and then he presses the button, and then he kind of looks like he teleports, but it might be more of a disintegration device. So he might actually have killed himself. But if he had teleported, where did he go? Because we never see him again. So I'm actually presuming he actually killed himself because we never see him again. We all presumed it was a teleport, but the way the dialogue was written and performed, he might have been killing himself. And then the lone god wakes up, and it turns out the lone god was not the mummy creature in the glass cage, but rather the planet behind everyone, the original planet where life supposedly started, at least in the beliefs of the people coming to Akhaten. So the Doctor has to confront the old god with no plan. He just tries to confront it. Mary then sings the long song to try and tame the old god to back to sleep, and the 11th Doctor gives, in my opinion, his best speech. In fact, one of the best speeches by a Doctor, if not the best, although the one from the Zygon inversion does come a close second. This speech, performed beautifully by Matt Smith with a beautiful Murray Gold score, beautiful score by Murray Gold, with Amelia Jones leading the vocals, just is probably the best scene of this entire series. This is just absolutely brilliant. The speech is amazing. Matt Smith gives it 121%. That's right, an extra 10% than usual. And you can even see the emotion on his face. He's so into it, and he makes it even better than it already was. Even if without that music, Matt Smith would just have sold it on the performance alone. He's just so amazing. It almost works as well, but the god still comes back. Despite having getting all of the Doctor's stories that he tells him, but then Clara comes and shows the leaf and explains whilst there's a lot of stories that were there, there's also a lot of stories that never happened. As the Doctor says, there is a lot of one, but there's an infinity of the other. And that saves the day. Clara more or less saves the day in this situation at the cost of her leaf. And I do feel sorry for her that her leaf went, because that was a sentimental value of her, especially considering it's caused what her it was what her caused her parents to meet, and one of them has sadly passed away by this point. So and it was in the book that said parents had kept on and passed on to Clara, and it's quite an emotional scene. I'm glad the leaf did come back 6 weeks later at the end of the Name of the Doctor, but yeah, I felt very sorry for Clara, especially back then when I didn't know it was going to come back 6 weeks later. 6 weeks later, in when the episode first broadcast, I was glad that she had given her mother's ring to pay for the hover bike thing that they use in the episode that Doreen provides them. The ring was used as payment. I am glad that they gave that to the Doctor to give back to Clara as a thank you. So yeah, but it's kind of a bit of some gut punches for Clara in this episode, and I kind of feel sorry for her. But thankfully, she does get both the ring and later the leaf back. So thank goodness for that. The episode then ends. Well, to be honest, we don't really get a proper goodbye scene at the end of this episode. Then again, Snake Dance cut it. Final scene where they say the Doctor and companions say goodbye to everyone. So I guess it's not that unusual. And the Doctor returns Clara home, and they agree to go on more adventures, which they're kind of happy about. So that's the Rings of Akhaten. What a beautiful episode. My only negatives are that some things kind of just happen and don't quite get explained. Like the guy pressing his button and then he either kills himself or he disappears and we don't know where. And the Vigils aren't really that necessary in there. I think that's the only unexplained stuff. But everything else is beautiful. I like the twist of the old god being the big planet in the background as opposed to the mummy guy, and he's just the grandfather. He's the grandfather is the mummy, and he's just the clock, the alarm clock. The Doctor and Clara's interactions and relationship here. There is a little bit more personality for Clara here than in some of the other episodes of this series. I think Neil Cross is the writer who gets her the best, as we'll see here, and in Hyde. And Jenna Coleman continues to be brilliant as Clara, as does Matt Smith as the Doctor. In fact, this is probably his best performance since probably ever. Actually, I think this is Matt Smith's best performance. Well, maybe not the episode overall, but certainly that that scene where he's confronting the lone god and the bit where Clara's then confronting it. He's just absolutely magnificent. Amelia Jones is brilliant. Mary Galel, she's a great supporting character. The character's great, and Amelia Jones is a great actress. She's probably the best child actress of Series 7 so far, beating Holly Earl as Lily from The Doctor, the Wizard and the Wardrobe, and probably the best supporting child actor, since A Christmas Carol. And she does absolutely brilliant. And I believe she's the daughter of some singers, so she was probably cast for her singing. But she's also a really great and talented actress as well. So she does a great job. Bit like with Lily Cole in The Curse of the Black Spot, except maybe even better because Lily Cole didn't get to have to say that many lines. Maybe more than lines of Catherine Jenkins, actually, then, from A Christmas Carol, actually. But yeah, Amelia Jones does some really great stuff. Other supporting characters aren't really that worth mentioning, apart from the bit where the guy teleports and disappears, and the Vigil not really being that needed. But I do like Doreen. That she was a pretty good character as well. When they meet her, that was quite nice. And they used the alien designs on Akhaten are really great and inventive. They used quite a few of the already established ones, and there is definitely a creature that looks like a mix between a Hoix and a Hath. at one point, and I still think these creatures are really pretty nicely designed, some pretty interesting designs, and Akaten's a great planet. The world building is really great. The start of the episode is brilliant, with Clara's backstory and her parents meeting and everything. That was brilliantly put together. And I just think the whole story has this really nice emotional feel to it that just works so well. I know the story, one of the mixed receptions was due to the emotion, but I think it hits it right on the nail with our head. I think it handled it really well, really brilliantly, especially in that speech and Clara's confrontation with the Lone Gods right afterwards. And there's lots of brilliant visuals, both in filming and with the special effects, and the editing is really great. On a execution standpoint, this is pretty much a masterpiece. Bar a few obviously CG shots like the motor bike flying through space bit, but yeah, it's still a really lovely episode. It's still really well put together. I don't know why people don't like this one. I don't actually know. I really don't know. Not just because the fact I love it, but for the fact that I really don't know. Nobody's told me. In fact, in this issue of Doctor Who magazine, released in 2014, after doing the 50th anniversaries poll, the issue was released in May 2014. In the results of the poll of where readers would rank all the stories, where they would list do a number of the score, they would score the stories, and the most number of those numbers would then get added up and filled into a place, and ultimately the one with the most number 10s would be number 1, and the one with the lowest score would be number 241, as that's how many stories there were as of the time of the magazine being released, which was up to the time of the Doctor. Naturally, the Twin Dilemma lost again, with Fiher coming a close second last, and Tamarani coming a close third last. However, the Rings of Akhaten somehow made it into the bottom 10. Nine. In fact, it's ninth to last. And that makes it 233rd overall. And I really don't know why. Why don't people like this story? I don't actually get... I'm never told why. Nobody's ever said why. It's just that this is one of the least popular stories of the era. And I don't know why. I really don't know why. In fact, I think it's the least... No, it was not the least popular episode of the series, of the revised series. It's the... According to this list, it's the second weakest story of the revived series, after Fear Her. Why? I don't get it. And no one's actually said why. No one's actually told me. In fact, I think this one's a brilliant episode. And I was talking to my friend Ollie Pajak earlier. He likes this episode too, so we don't know why. And he doesn't know why this episode's disliked as well. So, yeah, no one's actually said why this episode... maybe someone has. I don't know if they have, I haven't seen those videos. But I haven't heard anybody say why they don't like this episode. And to be 9th to last place on a poll in 2014 of all of the episodes broadcast by the end of 2013, to be 9th last, I don't know why. What did this story do to you to make you put it this low on the list if you were one of those people who gave it a low score, and ultimately that notable number of low scores, or a lack of high scores, is what put it so low on the list? I mean, I'm not going to have a go at you or anything. I just want to know why. I just want to know your opinions. That's why I asked you to put it in the comments down below, or why you think other people dislike it, if you are a fan of this story, or if you like the story. I just don't know why. I just want to know why. I'm not going to have a go at anybody. I just want to know why, because I really don't know. I genuinely don't know. As for me, The Rings of Akhaten is a beautiful episode. It's so brilliant. In fact, this episode might even deserve to be on a top 50 list. Heck, with the score I'm about to give it, might even be a top 30 to 40. I don't know if it'll be any higher than top 30, but perhaps. And that score is, of course, it might be a bit high, considering I've got a few nitpicks, but fuck it. 10 out of 10. I'm going there. I'm giving this episode one of the least popular episodes of the new series, besides the ones that are very well known for being the least popular stories, like Love and Monsters, Fear Her, Hellbent, some of the Jodie Whittaker ones, because a lot of people just don't like the Jodie Whittaker era for one reason or another. But Rings of Akhaten is one of the least popular stories of the new series, or certainly at least the 11th Doctor's era. Yet, I don't really know why many other people dislike this one. So I'm going to be so controversial. I'm going to be giving this one a 10 out of 10. I'm going to be polarizing, controversial, and I don't care. I love this episode. I have a few nitpicks with it, a few tiny issues, but not enough to give it a 9. It might be a low 10, but it's a 10 nevertheless. I love this episode. It's definitely the best episode of Series 7 Part 2 so far, 2 episodes in, and the best episode of Series 7 so far, and the best episode of the 11th Doctor's era since probably The Girl Who Waited. Yeah, I was going to say Good Man Goes to War, but it's The Girl Who Waited. It's the best episode since The Girl Who Waited, which was the last 10 out of 10 story. Is it better than that story? Maybe not. Maybe. I'm not quite sure yet. I'll have to do when I do the 11th Doctor ranking, I and you will find out. But it's certainly up there. It's certainly a possible top 10. More likely, in fact. I think it's a very likely top 10. In fact, it's more than certain. But yeah, I love the Rings of Akhaten. I love it. I love it. And I don't care if that upsets anybody. Especially as I want to know why it would upset somebody. I want you to tell me why you would get upset about that. Why you don't like this episode. If you don't like this episode. Just say why you don't. Please be nice about it, but just tell me nicely. So that's the Rings of Akhaten. What a beautiful episode, and a very underrated one in my opinion, and one that deserves a lot more love. Right, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Next time, an old enemy makes a comeback after nearly 30 years. Well, no, 40 years. Nearly 40 years since their final appearance. They were supposed to return in a story with the 6th Doctor in season 23, but that season didn't get, well, season 23 got made, but not that season 23. It was replaced due to Michael Gray putting the show on hiatus for 18 months, and then they had to make Trial of a Time Lord instead of the season 23 they were going to make. Thanks, Michael! And then they were supposed to come back for season 27 with the 7th Doctor, but the show got cancelled after season 26. That season didn't get made. Well, not that season 27. And then the season 27 that did get made was series 1. So these villains have not returned since season 11's The Monster of Peladon, their last appearance, and they've been robbed of returns in the 6th and 7th Doctor's eras due to the season 23 that they were going to appear in being changed, and that one being dropped, and the season 27 they were going to appear in was cancelled. So these guys haven't got very much luck when it comes to returning later on in other Doctor's eras, after missing out on the 6th and 7th Doctor's eras due to those seasons being cancelled. But how will their return in an 11th Doctor story go? We'll find out next time in Cold War, which is the return of course, the Ice Warriors, or specifically a Ice Warrior. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel.